Sheila. We are going to talk more about their process and some feedback.
Sounds
Sheila,
good.
would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Sheila Besterfeldt with Water Testing Labs. I am the Quality Assurance Manager.
How long have you been a quality assurance manager?
8 years, maybe?
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yes.
So you have a lot of experience.
Yes.
How long have you worked in this lab specifically?
I have worked here for 22 years.
Oh my God. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
And how was your experience before working with any LIMS solution? I know you tried different ones before us, but like before starting to work on any LIMS.
Well, everything before LIMS was manual.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was handwritten.
Mm-hmm.
And we only began really using computers maybe 15 years ago. But before that, everything was just handwritten, chains of custodies. The reports were generated by computer, but the LIMS system has really helped us keep everything consolidated and in one place.
Nice. And when you say the reports were generated on the computer, you mean typed on the computer?
Yes, we had to type them up manually.
Yeah, okay. Until the reports, like you had to create a lot of paperwork, right?
Yes.
Handwritten labels, right?
Yes.
The COCs. I mean, how many chain of custodies did you have?
We had a ton because before even the chains that you are familiar with, we had each individual sample was on one certificate.
Oh.
And it was like a carbon copy certificate.
Oh my God.
So the collectors had to fill one out for every sample that they had. So on days when there were 30 samples, I had a stack of certificates with 30 pieces of paper.
So at the end of each month, you'd have like a really big book.
Yes.
Just with the COCs.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a manager, how was life before LIMS for you? Like dealing with everything, like managing people, looking for the right information that you needed.
It was sometimes chaotic, trying to find the information that you needed, because it could be in one of several places, depending on where in the process a sample may be. So there was always a lot of confusion running around and a lot of wasted time. So I think the LIMS has helped us, since it is centrally accessible by everybody, it cuts out a lot of the questions of where is this, where is that. Everybody can log in and find what they need relatively quickly.
Yeah. You are basically talking, I think, about lab overview, right?
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
That is a page that we basically created as a surprise, right? In the beginning.
Right.
So we didn't plan it from the beginning. And at some point it just happened to appear like lab overview, to have everything in one place. So whenever a customer calls you, you can go to that page and search through stuff, right?
Yes.
From that perspective, when someone calls in to ask for their reports, even it's a current order that's in processing right now or a 3 years old report, right?
Yeah.
How was that process before for you?
Before, it involved going down to the bacteria lab, physically looking for the paperwork to make sure we actually had the sample in the lab, and then looking at the results on the paperwork. So sometimes the results could be done, it just wasn't written on the paperwork. So we would only be able to give the client partial information. And then sometimes we couldn't find the paperwork because maybe the sample was completed and the paperwork had moved up to billing. So it was very unsettling sometimes, not knowing exactly where to go to look for information.
Yeah. And have you had in that period like of searching through the papers and in the lab, in different areas of the lab, did you have the customer at the phone?
Sometimes if it took too long, you'd say, I have to call you back when I find the information, so-and-so is not in the lab and she handles it, so I'll call you back later. So
yeah. And right now, how is it with LIMS?
It makes it quicker because we are able to go in and we can see what's scheduled for the next week. And like you said, the lab overview, we can go in there and see what results are still pending, what's been completed, whether or not the client has paid or not paid. So it's very useful. Yeah, it saves a lot of time.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And about reports, you said that like you type them before on the computer. How's that works for you?
We had to manually type up those reports, and then they would have to go to somebody else for review just to ensure accuracy. There aren't any transcriptional errors. So we're still doing that now. We're trying to review those reports before they go out. But it's nice not having to worry about typing in customer information and typing in results, that all of it is automatically generated once all of the data has been put into the system.
Yeah. And we made some automations on results that need to be highlighted on the reports, right?
Yes.
So those were things that you would still have to do manually, right?
Yes.
So don't forget to highlight or bold something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't even have to think about that now.
That's good.
Yeah.
And what about the customers? Did they complain about something?
So the initial feedback was, what is this report? There's so much information on it. But that's been the only feedback so far. I think people are usually a little averse to change. So this is definitely a big change.
Yeah.
But I think so far, if that was the only complaint, is that there was too much information, then that's fine.
When we created the report, so we basically agreed on what kind of information you want to appear there. So it's not something that you didn't want it to offer the customer.
Right.
You actually are able right now to offer more to the customer, right? That's a good thing. That I really appreciate you guys, that you want to give a lot more to the client so they can be self-sufficient and understand what's going on with their water. That's really amazing. How are other processes working for you right now? The scheduled orders, you had to manage different scheduled orders for public institutions. How do you think that worked for you before and now? Is there a good change, a bad change that kind of happened with that?
It's not a bad change. It's a good change. The collectors are able to see everything that needs to be completed for the month. And it's been a really easy tool for them to use. I don't think we've had any issues learning how to use the system. And they've picked it up very quickly. And it helps them to see what is left in the month and make sure that we don't miss anything.
Yeah, so right now basically you, like all of you, can double check that okay, you actually collected that and tested it out in time and everything like that.
And it saves us. Previously we were using logbooks, so the collector had a logbook where they would check off
a physical
logbook, where they would write in the sample ID number, the date, and then there was a second logbook that was used as a check. So the people upstairs would also log in that sample just to ensure that everything was completed each month, that we weren't missing anything. So LIMS has negated the need for that. We don't have to have this double check system in place because everything is consolidated in one program. So
you don't have to do the Stairmaster anymore.
Right, it's not double work.
Oh. Yeah, that's really great to hear. How many collectors do you have?
4 or 5. Yeah, not that many.
I remember in the beginning you mentioned you were trying to have some sort of meetings to sync with everybody to make sure that they have everything in place, right? Do you still have the meetings with them?
Not necessarily. I just kind of talk to them as I see them, not necessarily a formal meeting. I think you might be thinking of Don.
Yeah.
So he would have had to do everything at home, but he got sick and isn't working with us. So everybody who is a collector starts their day in the lab, which makes it a little bit easier. easier.
Mm-hmm.
So they can just come in and print off whatever they need and get out the door.
What's something that you love?
I love just being able to see everything. I can go in there and look and be able to find what I need to find in a timely fashion. I don't have to get up from my desk and walk anywhere. That might be a downfall, but
yeah.
But being able to find the information that I need quickly is one of the best things.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what's one thing that you hate?
Thing that I hate. I don't know that there's anything that I hate.
Oh.
No, there's nothing that I dislike about the program. I mean, maybe just, I know we've discussed this before about the reports flowing onto 2 pages.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And that's something that's uncontrollable. If that's one thing I dislike, it would be that.
Yeah. We are still working on figuring out how we can improve that even more.
Okay.
But of course, like it happened because we added a lot of information.
Yes.
We wanted to be customizable based on what kind of analytes you have. A dynamic notes section that's changing.
Yeah. I know, there's just too much information.
Too much information we are offering to our customers. Yeah. We started an onboarding phase. We had a testing period, so you had to play around and test out the platform with actual information, like actual data, without messing around with your database, of course. How was the onboarding period from your perspective?
So it was fun getting to play around in the testing environment. The thing that was difficult for me was trying to imagine or create real world scenarios and applying it to the testing environment. It felt, it was a little too contrived. Like, the best test for me was actually implementing it and using it for real and seeing where we needed to make improvements that way.
Yeah.
And you guys were always so quick to respond and to fix anything or implement anything that we needed. So that was a good thing for us.
The good thing.
Yeah.
And the onboarding for you as an entire team, how do you think it went?
I think it went smoothly. I did have a few concerns for some of our employees, but I think that the program was intuitive enough and very user-friendly that it wasn't too hard to learn. And the flow of it makes sense. So there wasn't a lot of teaching really necessary. You know, just explain a few things, show them some of the features that were implemented. But other than that, I think people were able to figure it out really quickly for themselves.
This is a really great thing that happened and actually impressed me. The fact that even older employees that were used to, the same process for 20 years, right?
Yes.
Even yourself, were open to a new way of working and entering stuff on a computer. Like the collectors didn't have anything to do with the computer before, right?
Right.
So they just had their paperwork and went on field. They wrote the labels by hand, everything. And right now they come to the lab, right? And they are actually printing the COCs and labels for themselves.
Yes.
So they are starting to be self-sufficient.
And taking responsibility for their work.
Yeah, because everything is traceable right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like you don't know who messed things up, right?
Right.
Did that change also the work environment for you? The fact that everything is so transparent, the entire process?
No. I don't think it really changed the way that they worked. It just made things easier for them. Yeah.
And what about you, seeing who worked on, like, who collected an order, who prepared it for testing, who entered the results? Did that help you?
I think it will in the future when we have auditing. It's very important for us to be able to have traceability and transparency. So it will be helpful in the future.
Good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Did you feel like the onboarding was too long, for example?
No.
No?
No, I think we had to move at our own pace. And that meant, for us, it meant just really taking it slow and ensuring everybody was comfortable before we just dived all in. So for us, going slow was the best method.
You are in the platform since January this year.
Yes.
With some of the orders, with the public orders, right? So there have been like 9, almost like 10 months, let's say 10 months since you use the platform partially, and you have 1 week since you started to have almost everything in the app. So how does that feel for you right now?
It feels great. Like I think everybody is excited to have everything fully moved to the LIMS platform.
Nice.
And
that's another thing that I was surprised. I didn't expect Chris to be so on board, with, okay, I would love to have everything in LIMS right now. I don't want any more paperwork.
Right. I was surprised by that too. Yeah. She's really taken a liking to it, and she has no problems going in and just trying to figure things out for herself. And like I said, it's pretty intuitive the way you use it. So I just had to explain a few things, a few differences to her, and she's really taken off with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Were you around when the lab tried different LIMS solutions?
I was.
Okay.
Yes.
How many have you tried so far?
I can recall 2.
2. Okay. So this is the third one.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was the experience with them?
It didn't seem to work for us. I think there were just too many. It was an already created program, so it couldn't be tweaked or changed to meet some of our specific needs. And for whatever reason, it just never worked out. I wasn't as hands-on in some of those programs as I am with this one, so I don't have a lot of the specifics. But it didn't feel right, and we just eventually gave up.
And how long have you tried working with each LIMS solution before?
The last one that I remember clearly, I think we probably spent half a year, 10 months maybe, working on it. We had to fly that person into the lab from the West Coast a couple of times. She sat down and gave us demonstrations, and then it was when we were actually starting to input our information, our testing information for the different analytes and all of the QC stuff. I think that's where we ran into some problems, but I'm not sure if that's what eventually stopped us from using it.
A lot of labs tried different LIMS solutions, and at some point they just gave up and went straight back to pen and paper and never ever tried another LIMS solution again. It's kind of hard to think that there is another way of doing things other than you're used to, right?
Right.
So there's definitely an accommodation period first. And then also, as you said, the right solution for you guys was something else. So you had to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We never got very far. The furthest we got was just trying to create the platform to suit us. This is the furthest we've ever gotten. We've never ever implemented a LIMS system.
Oh my God.
We talked about it. We had we had access to the platform, but we had never used it. So this is.
So you weren't able to actually have your data in there? For how long? You said almost 10 months?
I feel like it was probably at least 6 months that we were working on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it just kind of
just to do your setup? Oh my God. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. So how, right now I'm curious, how was, from your perspective, that initial phase with us? Having the data, all your data, testing methods, analytes, reporting limits, everything in our system, how that went for you?
I don't want to say easy, but it was not difficult. You made it very easy for us to give you all of that information.
Mm-hmm.
Just having a spreadsheet that was accessible and editable by all parties was a nice feature, and it just made things very easy for us. Time-consuming, but easy.
So, it wasn't necessarily easy, but it was in a simple format.
Simple, maybe that was
right.
the word,
Yeah. And you guys have 2 different locations, and you operate a bit differently. I mean, you weren't actually synced on some of the information that went on reports, the reporting limits, everything like that. Yeah. I know that it was a bit of a struggle for you in the beginning to get everything in one place.
Yes.
How do you think that went? The fact that you had to sync and get everybody aligned on the right details that all of you want to have, like both locations.
Yeah. It was eye-opening how different we really operated from each other. I didn't realize we had so many differences. But I don't think it was too hard to get us all on the same page. Salisbury made a lot of concessions to us. So that made it easy. But having everything be the same across both labs is nice, because that's what you want in a company, is you want uniformity. So it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible process.
No. That's good to know. Did you ever track how long would it take you to prepare the paperwork for one order, for example?
I know that for reporting, Chris could spend like a quarter of her day just doing reports. And she would just sit at her desk and then focus on getting a folder full of reports finished for the day. So it took up a lot of her time, definitely.
And how much time do you think it takes her right now?
A quarter of the time.
A quarter of the time?
It's going to be so much faster.
Yeah, so she's basically responsible mainly for bacteria testing, right? She's also entering the results, like the information, and making sure that everything is properly input, right? So right now, what does she has to do to generate the reports?
Nothing, just ensure that all the data's in there, and then just hit the button.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that is one thing Chris mentioned, like, well, right now I just select everything and push a button and everything is done for the day.
Yeah, it's going to save her so much time, because she was dedicating, especially during the busy season for us, she was dedicating a lot of her time just getting those reports typed up. It was
a lot.
It was a lot of work, and it could take her half a day sometimes to get everything out.
Yeah, so half a day of work and half a day of just typing.
Yeah.
Have you experienced any unexpected benefits for your customers since you start using LIMS?
Unexpected benefits. I guess just the fact that we can answer their questions a lot quicker than we could in the past.
Nice.
And hopefully it will lessen some of the phone calls that we receive if we can get things out quickly to them. Yeah.
Did it already happen to not have so many phone calls from the customers?
There aren't as many customers calling up for their results. So yes, I think it has lessened some of those inquiries.
And what were those about?
People just calling saying, I sent in my sample 2 weeks ago and I haven't gotten results yet. So, what's happening?
Yeah.
Things like that. Some of those were just because they ordered tests that take a long time. So it's nice to be able to tell them, oh yeah, it's still pending analysis and it'll be another few days.
Yeah. Definitely. If you had to describe LIMS Plus in one sentence, how would you do it?
How would I describe LIMS Plus in one sentence?
Yeah, if you had to describe it.
Wow, that's a tough one. I would describe LIMS as LIMS is a very efficient coworker. I don't have to worry about making small talk with it.
Correct. Yeah. You're asking anything and they are responding.
Exactly. I like that. Thanks.
Very efficient coworker. What would you tell someone considering using LIMS Plus to their benefit?
Oh, I would tell them to do it. It's nice not having all the paperwork, and it just makes your life a little bit easier. So you'll have extra time to do whatever.
What kind of extra time did you get back? Like, what are you using it for?
I don't know that it necessarily gives me extra time because I don't use LIMS as much as everyone else does. But I can see other people not having to spend extra hours making sure that the reports are getting out, or not walking around the lab looking for data that somebody forgot to input. I think that it will benefit the lab greatly, the analysts and the people who use the data.
Yeah.
They will have the most benefit from it.
Thank you. Would you recommend LIMS Plus to other companies?
Yes, I would. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
I would recommend LIMS Plus to any laboratory seeking an information management system. And Dad Sheehan and Roxana are great to work with.
Thank you.
They're more like friends than
thank you.
than a company that we've hired.
We just bought them with candies, Romanian candies.
Donuts.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Of course, Roxana.
In the end, is there anything else that you'd like to share about working with us?
Well, I think you guys are very easy to work with. We threw a lot of stuff at you, like a lot of stuff, and you guys never batted an eye. And you all took it all in stride and met all of our crazy demands.
They were not crazy.
Yeah, you guys are very easy to work with, easy to communicate with, and always available when we need you. So
yeah,
very good.
Always.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure to make everything as smooth as possible in the lab, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Good. Thank you very much for the feedback.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Again, everybody, Sheila.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Roxana.